The lights in the Galactic Senate chamber flickered to life as representatives from 200 different species took their seats. The massive space station orbited Centrum Prime, a neutral world chosen specifically because no single species could claim it as their own. Today's session was different from the usual trade disputes and border negotiations. Today, they would discuss humanity. Captain Hyanwu Park stood on the observation deck of the UEDF Indomitable, watching the stars drift past. His communicator buzzed with an urgent message. He was being recalled from patrol duty. The Senate wanted Earth's military representative present for what they were calling a security hearing. Hyanwu felt his stomach tighten. Security hearings were never good news. On Earth, Ambassador Ji-1 Lee sat in her office reviewing intelligence reports. The documents painted a troubling picture. 3 of the galaxy's most powerful empires had formed a coalition. The Vraxian Empire, known for their aggressive expansion policies. The Keltorian Collective, who controlled vast mineral wealth. The Thalian Dominion, masters of energy weapons. All 3 had one thing in common now. They feared humanity's growing military strength. Ji-1 closed the reports and looked out at the skyline of New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic capital. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 30 years ago. In that time, they had gone from primitives with barely functional space travel to a species with one of the most advanced fleets in known space. Other species had taken thousands of years to achieve what humans accomplished in decades. Fear was a natural response, but fear often led to dangerous decisions. The Senate chamber filled with an uncomfortable silence as Supreme Chancellor Torvan of the Vraxian Empire took the central podium. He was an imposing figure, nearly 8 feet tall, with silver scales that caught the light. His voice boomed through the translation systems that allowed all species to understand each other. Esteemed representatives, we gather today to address a threat to galactic stability. The species known as humanity has engaged in an unprecedented military buildup. Their fleet has doubled in size over the past 5 years. They develop weapon systems in secret. They refuse to share their military technology with the Senate oversight committees. This behavior cannot be tolerated. Torvan activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Images of human warships appeared, spinning slowly. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and the massive dreadnoughts that served as humanity's main battle fleet. The numbers scrolled beside each ship class. The assembled representatives murmured among themselves. Some seemed impressed, others concerned. Humanity claims these forces are purely defensive, Torvan continued. Yet they position their ships along trade routes. They establish military bases and systems they have no historical claim to. They train soldiers at a rate that suggests preparation for offensive operations. The Senate must act before this situation spirals beyond our control. Ambassador Ji-1 listened from Earth's designated seating area. She had expected this speech almost word for word. The coalition had been planning this move for months. Her intelligence teams had intercepted enough communications to know exactly where this was heading. Still, she let Torvan finish his presentation. In diplomacy, interrupting was a sign of weakness. Captain Hyanwu arrived at the Senate station and made his way to the gallery reserved for military observers. He wore his dress uniform, the dark blue fabric decorated with medals from various peacekeeping operations. A Keltorian representative glanced at him and quickly looked away. Hyanwu noticed the gesture and filed it away for later consideration. Guilty consciences made for poor poker faces. The evidence presentation continued for over an hour. Torvan showed satellite images of human shipyards. He displayed graphs comparing human military spending to other species. He even brought up historical examples of species who had built large militaries and then used them for conquest. The implication was clear. Humanity would eventually do the same. When Torvan finally yielded the floor, Ji-1 rose from her seat. She walked to the speaker's podium with measured steps, her expression calm and professional. She had practiced this walk 1,000 times. Show no fear, no anger, no weakness. The galaxy was watching, and Earth needed to project confidence. Supreme Chancellor, esteemed representatives, I thank you for this opportunity to address the Senate's concerns. Let me address each point in turn. Yes, humanity has expanded our fleet. We have done so in response to increased piracy along our trade routes. We have lost 17 merchant vessels in the past 3 years to raiders. Our military buildup has reduced those losses to 0. G1 activated her own holographic display. Star maps appeared, showing human territory and the surrounding regions. Red markers indicated pirate attacks. Blue markers showed where human military intervention had stuck raids, not just on human ships, but on vessels from 12 other species. Regarding military bases, we have established exactly 4 stations in contested space. Each one was built at the request of local governments who lacked the resources to defend themselves. We have formal treaties with all 4 systems. These documents are public record. We share our technology selectively because, as this hearing demonstrates, not all species approach us with friendly intentions. And yes, we train soldiers. We train them to protect our citizens and our allies. Show me a species in this chamber that does not do the same. The murmuring grew louder. Some representatives nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. The neutral parties, those who had not joined the coalition, seemed particularly interested in G1's defense. Torvin raised his voice over the crowd. Ambassador Lee, your words are eloquent, but they do not change the facts. Humanity represents a clear and present danger. We cannot ignore. A danger to whom exactly? G1 interrupted, her voice sharp. Humanity has never initiated military action against a Senate member species. We have defended allies. We have protected trade routes. We have rescued civilians from natural disasters on 7 different worlds. If we are dangerous, perhaps you should specify what exactly you fear we might do. The chamber fell silent. It was a direct challenge, and everyone knew it. Torven's scales seemed to darken slightly, a sign of anger in Vraxian biology. Very well, Torven said coldly. Let the Senate vote. I propose immediate disarmament protocols. Humanity will reduce their military by 75% within 30 standard days. They will decommission all capital ships. They will surrender all weapons research to Senate oversight. Failure to comply will result in economic sanctions and potential military intervention. All in favor? The vote was swift and brutal. The coalition had done its work well. Species that humanity had never even spoken to voted in favor. Others who owed Earth debts of gratitude abstained rather than vote against the powerful coalition. When the final count appeared, the motion had passed with a wide margin. Captain Haiyan Wu watched from the gallery, his hands gripping the railing. 30 days to disarm. It was impossible. Earth would be defenseless. Every admiral, every general, every strategic analyst knew it. The coalition knew it too. This was not about peace. This was about dominance. Ambassador G1 stood at the podium, her face unreadable. She let the chamber settle into an expectant silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm and clear. The United Earth government has heard the Senate's decision. We will deliver our response within the allotted time. I suggest the Senate prepare themselves for what humanity considers reasonable. She gathered her materials and walked out of the chamber. No bow, no acknowledgement of the vote, no sign of defeat. Haiyan Wu followed her out, along with the rest of Earth's delegation. In the corridor outside, G1 finally allowed herself a small smile. Captain, send a message to Admiral Kong. Tell her to activate Prometheus Protocol. It is time the galaxy learned what humanity is really capable of. President Tae-Yang Choi looked around the conference room at the most important people on Earth, military leaders in their uniforms, scientists in their lab coats, diplomatic advisors with their data tablets. All of them wore the same expression, controlled concern. They had 30 days to respond to an impossible demand, and the wrong move could mean war. "Let us begin with the military assessment," President Choi said, gesturing to Admiral Sun Hee Kang. The admiral was a veteran of the First Contact War, back when humanity had fought off an aggressive species trying to claim Earth's water resources. She had been a lieutenant then. Now she commanded the entire Earth Defense Fleet. Admiral Kang stood and activated the wall display. Numbers and ship classifications filled the screen. Compliance with the Senate's demands would leave us with approximately 50 vessels total. That includes everything from patrol boats to supply ships. We would have no capital ships, no long-range strike capability, and no ability to defend our outer colonies. Any hostile force could take our territory with minimal effort. And the Coalition knows this, added General Wu Jin Park, head of ground forces. They are not asking us to disarm for peace. They are asking us to become defenseless so they can divide our technology and resources among themselves. Several officers began speaking at once, voices rising. Some advocated for immediate military mobilization. Others suggested diplomatic solutions. A few even mentioned the possibility of preemptive strikes against coalition forces. President Choi raised her hand, and the room fell silent. "We will not fire the first shot," she said firmly. "Humanity did not survive this long by making enemies unnecessarily. But we will also not surrender. Dr. Han, I believe you have a proposal?" Dr. Minji Han stepped forward. She ran the Advanced Research Division, the most classified scientific program on Earth. Very few people knew the full extent of her work. Those who did often wished they did not. Some knowledge was a heavy burden. "Madame President, we have been developing something we call Prometheus Protocol. The name comes from the old myth, a titan who gave fire to humanity. What we propose is similar. We will give the galaxy a gift, whether they want it or not. We will show them the fire." "Explain," President Choi said. Dr. Han pulled up a new set of displays. Weapon schematics, power readings, and simulation videos filled multiple screens. "For the past 10 years, we have been developing military technology far beyond what the Senate knows about. Railguns that can hit targets from 3 times the effective range of standard weapons. Energy shields that can withstand sustained bombardment. Quantum drives that make our ships faster than anything else in known space. And those are just the conventional systems." She pulled up another schematic. This one showed something that looked like a small star contained in a magnetic bottle. "This is a stellar containment drive. It allows a ship to carry a miniature fusion reaction with controllable output. In theory, a vessel equipped with this technology could trigger reactions in actual stars. Not destroy them, but create localized events. Flares, pulses, radiation bursts. The room went very quiet. Several people looked pale. Admiral Kang leaned forward, studying the schematic with intense focus. "You are saying we could weaponize stars themselves?" she asked. "In a limited capacity, yes. But that is not the point of Prometheus Protocol. The point is demonstration. The Coalition thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They think they can push us around because they believe they have superior numbers and technology. We need to correct that misunderstanding." Commander J. Hyon O, head of Special Operations, cleared his throat. "Dr. Han's proposal aligns with intelligence we have gathered. My teams have been monitoring the Coalition species for years. We have detailed files on every member of their alliance. Secret weapons programs, territorial disputes they have hidden from the Senate, suppressed rebellions, illegal research. The Vraxians alone have 17 different violations of Senate law that they have carefully covered up. He pulled up his own data, and the screens filled with intercepted communications, surveillance photos, and classified documents. If we release this information at the right moment, we can destroy the Coalition's credibility. Show the galaxy that the species demanding our disarmament are hypocrites who violate the very laws they claim to uphold. President Choi walked to the window overlooking the city. New Geneva was beautiful at night, millions of lights representing millions of people, all of them depending on the decisions made in this room. She thought about her daughter, studying engineering at university. She thought about her late husband, who had died defending Earth during the First Contact War. She thought about what kind of galaxy she wanted future generations to inherit. "Here is what we will do," she said, turning back to the room. "We will not disarm. We will not comply with the Senate's demands. But we will also not start a war. Instead, we will accept their invitation for transparency. Dr. Han, prepare a full demonstration of our military capabilities. Commander O, organize your intelligence into a comprehensive briefing. Admiral Kong, select our most advanced ships to participate in the presentation." "And the location, Madame President?" Admiral Kong asked. "Neutral space at the edge of our territory. We will invite the entire Senate to observe. The Coalition wanted to see humanity disarmed. We will show them why that is impossible. We will show them what we are really capable of. And then we will offer them a choice." Ambassador G1, who had been listening quietly from her seat, spoke up. "A choice between what?" President Choi smiled. "Between genuine cooperation based on mutual respect, or finding out what happens when you threaten a species that has survived ice ages, world wars, and nuclear weapons. Humanity has faced extinction before. We are still here. The Coalition should consider what that means." Over the next week, preparations moved forward. Dr. Han's research teams loaded their most advanced equipment onto demonstration vessels. Commander O's intelligence operatives compiled their data into devastating presentations. Admiral Kong selected a barren moon in an uninhabited system for the Lev fire demonstrations. Captain Haiyan Wu received orders to command the diplomatic vessel that would host Earth's delegation. It was a small ship compared to the dreadnoughts he usually commanded, but it was equipped with every advanced communication and sensor system humanity could build. His crew would record everything that happened and broadcast it across the galaxy. The message went out to the Senate. Earth requests a formal gathering in neutral space to present their compliance measures. Location coordinates attached. Date set for exactly 30 days from the ultimatum. All species invited to observe. The response was immediate and chaotic. The Coalition sent messages demanding Earth surrender their weapons before any demonstration. Neutral species sent inquiries about safety and observation protocols. A few brave species sent private messages to Ambassador G1 expressing support for whatever Earth was planning. Chancellor Torvin made a public statement calling Earth's proposal a transparent stalling tactic. He threatened immediate sanctions if humanity did not begin decommissioning ships within the week. Admiral Kong responded by ordering the entire fleet to high alert. Not aggressive positioning, but ready. The galaxy held its breath. In her office, Ambassador G1 reviewed the final preparations. Everything had to be perfect. They would get one chance to change the galaxy's perception of humanity. One chance to transform a threat into an opportunity. One chance to show that strength and wisdom could coexist. She thought about her mentor, the previous ambassador who had first made contact with alien species. He had told her something she never forgot. Diplomacy is not about making friends. It is about making sure your enemies respect you enough not to become enemies in the first place. The countdown began. 30 days became 20, then 10, and 5. Ships from across the galaxy began moving toward the designated coordinates. Military vessels, observation craft, diplomatic transports. Over 300 ships would witness what humanity had to show. President Choi gave one final address to Earth before the demonstration. To the people of Earth, you may be afraid. That is natural. But remember this, we have always been underestimated. Every species that dismissed us as primitive or weak learned otherwise. The galaxy is about to learn the same lesson. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not yield. We adapt, we overcome, and we endure. Tomorrow, we remind the galaxy why that matters. The message ended. The ships departed, and humanity prepared to shock the galaxy. The coordinates marked an empty region of space, far from any inhabited system. It was the kind of place ships passed through quickly on their way to somewhere more interesting. Today, it became the most important location in the galaxy. Captain Hyan Wu stood on the bridge of his diplomatic vessel, watching his sensors fill with new contacts. Ships arrived in clusters, emerging from faster-than-light travel in flashes of light. Vraxian dreadnoughts appeared first, massive and intimidating. Then came the sleek Keltorian cruisers and the angular Thalian destroyers. The coalition wanted everyone to see their military strength. Behind them came the neutral observers. Scientific vessels from a dozen species. Diplomatic transports carrying ambassadors. Even a few merchant captains who had heard about the gathering and wanted to witness history. By the time the last ship arrived, over 300 vessels floated in the designated area. All sensors pointed toward Earth's small delegation. They brought quite the audience, Lieutenant Young Soo commented from the tactical station. I count 47 warships from the coalition alone. They are not taking chances. Good, Hyan Wu replied. The more witnesses, the better. Open a channel to all vessels. Let everyone hear this. The view screens across 300 ships flickered to life. President Taeyong Choi appeared, standing in what looked like a simple briefing room on Earth. Behind her, the Earth flag hung on the wall next to the United Earth Government seal. She wore a dark suit, no military decorations, no weapons. Just a leader addressing her peers. Representatives of the Galactic Senate, observers and friends, thank you for attending this demonstration. The Senate has expressed concerns about humanity's military capabilities and has demanded transparency. We agree that transparency is essential for galactic peace. Therefore, Earth has prepared a comprehensive presentation of our defensive systems. What you are about to witness represents our commitment to honest dialogue. President Choi stepped aside, and Dr. Min Ji-han appeared on screen. She stood in what was clearly a military command center, surrounded by tactical displays and monitoring stations. Officers moved in the background, preparing systems. I am Dr. Han, Director of Earth's Advanced Research Division. Over the next hour, we will demonstrate our military technology using a barren moon in the nearby system. This moon has no strategic value, no resources, and no life. It exists solely as a testing ground. All vessels are invited to monitor with their own sensors. We have nothing to hide. The view screen split. On one side, Dr. Han continued speaking. On the other side, a visual feed showed the moon in question. It was a dead rock, cratered and gray, orbiting a lifeless planet. Perfect for what came next. First demonstration. Conventional railgun systems. A human warship appeared in the visual feed, positioning itself in orbit around the moon. The vessel was smaller than most coalition cruisers, but sleek and clearly advanced. Weapons ports opened along its hull. Firing sequence in 3, 2, 1. The railgun spoke. There was no sound in space, of course, but the sensors on every observing ship registered the massive kinetic energy release. A projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed crossed the distance to the moon in less than a second. The impact cratered the surface, throwing debris in all directions. The entire moon shook from the force. Effective range, 3 times standard coalition weapons. Accuracy, pinpoint targeting at maximum range. Reload time, 6 seconds. 5 more shots followed in rapid succession. Each one hit exactly where Dr. Han indicated on the tactical display. By the time the demonstration ended, the moon had 6 perfectly placed craters arranged in a geometric pattern visible from orbit. On the coalition flagship, Chancellor Torvin watched with growing unease. His military advisors were speaking urgently, recalculating their tactical assessments. Those railguns could engage coalition ships before they even got into weapons range. Second demonstration, directed energy weapons. Another human ship appeared, this one larger. Energy began building along weapon arrays mounted on its hull. The sensors on every observing vessel screamed warnings about dangerous power levels. Firing. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from the ship. It touched the moon's surface and began carving. Not random destruction, but precise cutting. The beam moved in controlled patterns, slicing through rock like a knife through paper. Within minutes, it had carved a canyon across the moon's equator, hundreds of meters deep and perfectly straight. Energy output, sustained beam capable of cutting through standard military armor in under 10 seconds. Multiple targeting. Our systems can engage 6 targets simultaneously. The demonstrations continued. Missile systems that could overwhelm point defense networks. Electronic warfare capabilities that could blind enemy sensors. Shield technology that absorbed hits from simulated weapons fire without failing. Each system was more advanced than what the Coalition believed possible. But Dr. Han was not finished. She had saved the most impressive demonstrations for last. Third demonstration. Experimental gravity manipulation. A new ship appeared, different from the others. It looked more like a research vessel than a warship, but the energy readings coming from it made every sensor officer in the assembled fleet check their instruments twice. This technology is still in testing phases, but it represents a fundamental breakthrough in physics. We have learned to create localized gravity fields. Watch. The ship activated its systems. Nothing visible happened at first, but the sensors told a different story. Gravitational forces spiked around a section of the moon. Then, impossibly, chunks of the moon's surface began to lift. Rocks the size of buildings floated upward, pulled by artificial gravity. The ship directed these massive pieces of debris with precision, arranging them in orbit around the moon like a temporary ring system. Potential military applications include ship immobilization, projectile redirection, and area denial. Potential peaceful applications include mining, construction, and rescue operations. The assembled observers were silent. This was beyond advanced. This was technology that fundamentally changed the rules of space warfare. A ship equipped with gravity manipulation could tear apart enemy vessels or redirect incoming fire. The tactical implications were staggering. Commander J. Hyun-Oh appeared on screen next. He wore his special operations uniform, dark and practical, with no decorations except his unit insignia. Now we address the political dimension. The Coalition has accused humanity of building military strength in secret while hiding behind peaceful intentions. This is, to put it mildly, hypocritical. Files began appearing on every observer's secondary displays. Classified documents, surveillance footage, intercepted communications. All of it carefully organized and verified. The Vraxian Empire maintains 17 weapons research facilities that violate Senate regulations on banned technology. The Keltorian Collective has suppressed 4 rebellions in the past decade using methods classified as war crimes under Senate law. The Thalian Dominion has territorial disputes with 6 species that they have deliberately hidden from Senate records. The evidence kept coming, each accusation backed by solid proof. Audio recordings of coalition leaders discussing how to divide human technology after forced disarmament. Video of illegal weapons tests. Financial records showing how coalition species bribed smaller governments to support the disarmament vote. On the coalition flagship, chaos erupted. The Keltorian and Thalian ambassadors sent urgent messages demanding to speak with Torvan privately. Lower-ranking officers argued among themselves. The entire coalition was fracturing in real time as their secrets spilled into public view. Admiral Son Hee Kang appeared on screen, her expression serious but calm. We have one final revelation. The Senate believes Earth possesses approximately 200 major warships. This information is incorrect. A new tactical display appeared, showing human space in detail. Ships appeared on the map, one by one. Not 200. Not 500. The count climbed past 1,000 before slowing. Hidden shipyards revealed themselves. Defense platforms scattered throughout human territory powered up their transponders. Automated systems that had been running silent announced their presence. The actual count, 1,573 major warships, with another 1,126 in various stages of construction. Additionally, we maintain defensive networks in the territory of 47 allied species. These installations exist with their full knowledge and consent. They provide protection against piracy and aggression. Admiral Kang let that sink in before continuing. If the coalition attacks humanity, 47 species would lose their defensive support. The resulting power vacuum would invite opportunistic conquest. The galactic balance of power does not just include humanity. It depends on us. Ambassador G1 took the screen for the final message. The coalition demanded disarmament in the name of peace. We have shown why that is impossible. We have revealed the hypocrisy of our accusers. But we did not come here to make enemies. We came to propose a better solution. She held up a data chip. This contains a treaty we call the Mutual Defense and Transparency Accord. It establishes binding limits on all signatories, including humanity. It creates independent monitoring to verify compliance. It shares defensive technology to help all species protect themselves. Real peace through verified trust. Not forced weakness, but cooperative strength. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. 300 ships floated in silence, processing what they had witnessed. Earth had not just defended itself. They had changed everything. The silence lasted exactly 17 seconds. Then the communication channels exploded with activity. Neutral species immediately began transmitting messages of support. The Tyrillian Federation, a species known for their cautious diplomacy, sent a formal statement endorsing the Transparency Treaty. The Minarian hegemony followed within minutes. Then the Quellan Protectorate. One by one, species that had abstained from the original vote now stepped forward to support Earth's proposal. On the coalition flagship, Chancellor Torvan watched his political alliance crumble. His communication officer reported incoming messages from the Keltorian and Thalian governments. Both wanted private channels immediately. Torvan knew what that meant. They were going to abandon the coalition to save themselves. Chancellor, the Keltorian ambassador is demanding to speak with you, his aide reported. She claimed she was misled about the coalition's true intentions. Torvan's scales darkened further. Misled, as if she had not been in every planning meeting, every strategy session, as if she had not voted enthusiastically to disarm humanity. But now that Earth had exposed their secrets and demonstrated overwhelming military superiority, suddenly the Keltorians wanted to claim innocence. "Tell her I am unavailable," Torvan said coldly. "Tell all of them I am unavailable." He knew it was over. The coalition had gambled that humanity would either surrender or fight. They had prepared for both outcomes. What they had not prepared for was this: complete transparency that exposed their hypocrisy, while demonstrating such overwhelming power that military action became unthinkable. On Earth, President Choi watched the real-time responses coming in from across the galaxy. Her advisors were compiling the data, tracking which species supported the treaty and which were staying quiet. The results were better than she had dared hope. Madame President, we have formal endorsements from 63 species so far, her chief of staff reported. Another 31 have requested copies of the full treaty for review. Only the coalition members and their closest allies are not responding. And the coalition itself? Fragmenting. The Keltorians just released a public statement claiming they were manipulated by Vraxian intelligence. The Thalians are calling for Torvan's resignation. Several smaller coalition members are requesting private meetings with Ambassador G1. President Choi allowed herself a small smile. Schedule the meetings. Be gracious. We are not interested in revenge, only in building something better. Captain Haiyan Wu watched from his bridge as coalition ships began repositioning. The aggressive formations they had held earlier were breaking up. Some ships were actually powering down weapon systems, a clear signal of peaceful intent. Others were preparing to leave the area entirely. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Vraxian flagship, his communications officer reported. Chancellor Torvin wishes to speak with you directly. On screen, Torvin appeared, and Haiyan Wu was struck by how defeated the Chancellor looked. His scales had lost their luster. His posture was slumped. This was not a leader at the height of power. This was someone watching his career end in real time. Captain Park, Torvin said formally, I wish to discuss terms. I am a military officer, Chancellor. Diplomatic negotiations are Ambassador G1's responsibility. However, I can relay a message if you wish. Torvin was quiet for a moment. Tell your ambassador that the Vraxian Empire acknowledges the failure of our approach. We acted out of fear and pride. That was a mistake. We are prepared to discuss the Transparency Treaty. I will relay your message, Chancellor. The transmission ended. Haiyan Wu immediately contacted Ambassador G1, who was still aboard the diplomatic vessel in the demonstration area. She listened to his report with careful attention. The Vraxians want to negotiate, she said thoughtfully. That is good. It means they recognize they cannot win through force or politics. But we must be careful. Fear and pride do not disappear overnight. They will be looking for ways to save face. Will you meet with them? Yes, but not alone and not immediately. Let them wait. Let the neutral species continue expressing support for our treaty. The more isolated the coalition becomes, the more reasonable they will be at the negotiating table. Over the next 3 days, the political landscape shifted rapidly. The Keltorian Collective formally withdrew from the coalition and submitted an application to join the Transparency Treaty negotiations. The Thalian Dominion followed suit. Smaller species that had supported the disarmament vote began issuing apologies, claiming they had not understood the full situation. The Vraxian Empire held out longer, but internal pressure mounted. News of Torvin's failed coalition spread across Vraxian space. Political opponents called for his removal. Military leaders questioned why he had risked conflict with such a powerful species. Finally, on the 4th day after the demonstration, the Vraxian government recalled Torvin and appointed a new chancellor committed to reconciliation. The Senate reconvened in emergency session. The atmosphere was completely different from the first meeting. Species that had voted for disarmament now spoke in favor of cooperation. The neutral parties that had abstained before now actively pushed for the Transparency Treaty. Even former coalition members endorsed the proposal. Ambassador G1 presented the full treaty to the assembled Senate. It was a comprehensive document, carefully crafted to balance security with freedom. Key provisions included military forces limited to a ratio based on population and territory. Large empires could maintain larger fleets, but not unlimited growth. Weapons research must be declared to an independent monitoring council. Not surrendered, not banned, just disclosed. Member species would share defensive technology to help protect against external threats. Mutual defense pacts would be enforced through joint military exercises and coordinated response protocols. The treaty also included provisions for dispute resolution, economic cooperation, and scientific exchange. It was not just about limiting weapons. It was about building genuine partnerships across species lines. Dr. Min-Ji Han addressed the Senate Science Committee, explaining how shared technology could benefit everyone. Her presentation focused on peaceful applications, terraforming techniques, medical advances, faster-than-light communication improvements. The message was clear. Cooperation offered more benefits than conflict. Commander Ji Hyan-Oh briefed the Security Council on intelligence sharing protocols. His teams had demonstrated their capabilities by exposing coalition secrets. Now they offered to help all member species identify and counter external threats. Pirates, smugglers, hostile species from beyond known space. Intelligence cooperation could make everyone safer. Admiral Sun Hee Kong worked with military representatives from across the galaxy, designing joint training programs and coordinated defense networks. Human ships would integrate with alien fleets, creating combined task forces more effective than any single species could field alone. The demonstrations had shown human power. Now the integration showed human willingness to share that power. The vote on the Mutual Defense and Transparency Accord took place 1 week after the demonstration. The results were overwhelming. 163 species voted in favor. 27 abstained, mostly species from remote regions with minimal military concerns. Only 9 voted against, and even those 9 agreed to observer status. Watching how the treaty worked before committing, the coalition had scattered completely. The Vraxian Empire, the Kultorian Collective, and the Thalian Dominion all voted in favor, their new leadership eager to repair relationships and participate in the new order. The species that had once tried to force Earth's disarmament now requested human military advisors to help modernize their own defense forces. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Human ships began joint patrols with species that had been strangers months before. Scientists from dozens of worlds visited Earth's research facilities, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies together. Diplomatic channels that had been closed opened wide. Chancellor Torvin, the architect of the failed disarmament attempt, resigned from public life entirely. Some called for his prosecution, but Earth advocated for mercy. Punishment would only create resentment. Better to let him fade into obscurity while the galaxy moved forward. Captain Hyan Wu received a new assignment. He would command the Joint Fleet Coordination Committee, working with officers from across the galaxy to build integrated defense networks. His first meeting included representatives from 17 species, many of whom had voted to disarm humanity just weeks before. Now they asked for his expertise in protecting their homes. Ambassador G1 remained Earth's chief diplomat, but her role expanded. She became the primary mediator for the Transparency Treaty, helping resolve disputes and integrate new members. Species across the galaxy learned to trust her judgment. The woman who had stood alone against the coalition now stood at the center of a new galactic community. President Choi addressed Earth one final time before the treaty implementation began. We faced a choice between submission and war. We chose neither. Instead, We chose to change the conversation entirely. We showed the galaxy our strength, and then offered to share it. We exposed our enemies' hypocrisy, and then extended our hand in friendship. This is the human way. We adapt, we overcome, and we build something better from the ruins of what came before. The galaxy had tried to disarm humanity. Earth's response had not just left them speechless. It had given them hope for a better future. 6 months after the demonstration, the Galactic Defense Academy opened its doors on Earth. The facility sprawled across a mountain valley in what had once been Switzerland, before Earth's nations unified. Now it served as neutral ground where students from 200 species would learn together. Captain Haiyan Wu walked through the Academy's main hall, observing the controlled chaos of opening day. Taurillian students compared notes with Minarian cadets. Quellan instructors debated tactics with human officers. A young Vraxian, probably no more than 20 in their species years, asked a human sergeant for help with their equipment. The sergeant patiently showed them how to adjust the safety harness, treating the Vraxian with the same respect she would show any student. It was remarkable. Haiyan Wu thought how quickly things had changed. 6 months ago, the Vraxian Empire had wanted to force Earth into defenselessness. Now Vraxian parents sent their children to learn from human instructors. Fear had given way to respect, and respect was building toward genuine friendship. Admiral Sun Hee Kang oversaw the Academy's military curriculum. She had designed a program that emphasized cooperation over competition. Students learned not just how to fight, but when to fight, and more importantly, when not to. The galaxy had enough warriors. What it needed was protectors who understood the difference between strength and aggression. The first major exercise demonstrated this philosophy. Mixed teams of students from different species worked together to respond to a simulated pirate attack on a civilian convoy. No single species had all the skills needed. The Taurillians excelled at sensors and detection. Humans provided tactical coordination. Minarians contributed advanced electronic warfare. Quellans offered superior engineering to keep damaged ships running. The teams that succeeded were those that communicated effectively and trusted their alien partners. The teams that failed were those that tried to dominate or work in isolation. The lessons were clear, and the students learned quickly. Dr. Min Ji Han's research division had transformed as well. What had once been Earth's most classified program now operated as an open laboratory, hosting scientists from across the galaxy. The non-weaponized applications of human technology proved just as revolutionary as the military systems. The stellar containment drives that could weaponize stars found peaceful purpose in power generation. Colonies on remote worlds now had access to practically unlimited clean energy. The gravity manipulation systems that had torn apart the demonstration moon now helped with construction, projects, and mining operations. That would have been impossible before, but Dr. Han's proudest achievement was the medical exchange program. Human understanding of genetics combined with Keltorian knowledge of cellular regeneration and Thalian expertise in neural systems. Together, they developed treatments for diseases that had plagued multiple species for centuries. The same research facilities that had designed weapons now saved lives. Commander Chi Haiyan O's intelligence division evolved into something unprecedented, a galaxy-wide information sharing network. Species contributed data on threats in their regions, and the network analyzed patterns to predict where problems might emerge. Pirate activity dropped by 60% in the first 6 months as coordinated responses prevented raids before they started. More importantly, the network helped prevent misunderstandings that could escalate into conflicts. When a Thalian patrol encountered unknown ships near their border, the network quickly identified them as a scientific expedition that had drifted off course. What might have become a violent confrontation turned into a rescue operation, and diplomatic greeting. The Transparency Treaty proved more effective than anyone had predicted. Independent monitors verified that all signatories were honoring their commitments. Military buildups were disclosed and explained. Weapons research was documented and shared when appropriate. Trust grew because verification made lying pointless. Even the species that had initially voted against the treaty began joining. They saw the benefits. Reduced military spending because cooperative defense was more efficient. Access to advanced technology through the sharing programs. And security against external threats through the mutual defense pacts. One by one, the holdouts came around. Ambassador G1 spent most of her time traveling between worlds now. The treaty required constant maintenance, resolving disputes and updating provisions as circumstances changed. But it was rewarding work. She saw former enemies become allies. She watched suspicious species learn to trust each other. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better than before. She received a message from the new Vraxian Chancellor, a moderate reformer named Velthar, who had campaigned on repairing relationships with Earth. He wanted to discuss a joint research project, combining Vraxian mineral processing technology with human manufacturing techniques. It would benefit both species economically and strengthen their political ties. G1 smiled as she read the proposal. This was exactly what the treaty was supposed to enable. Not just preventing war, but creating reasons for cooperation so strong that war became unthinkable. President Choi's term was ending soon. Earth's democratic system meant she would step down and a new leader would be elected. But she felt satisfied with what had been accomplished. Humanity had faced an existential threat and transformed it into an opportunity that benefited everyone. She spent her final weeks in office visiting the academy, meeting with students from across the galaxy. They represented the future, a generation growing up with cooperation as the norm rather than the exception. They would inherit a galaxy where species worked together by choice, not by force. On her last official day, President Choi addressed the Academy's first graduating class. 200 students stood in formation, representing 17 different species. They wore uniforms that combined elements from all their homeworlds, a visual symbol of unity and diversity. A young Vraxian cadet named Kelthar approached after the ceremony. She had been one of the best students in her class, showing particular skill in tactical coordination and cross-species communication. "Madame President," Kelthar said in careful but clear English. "May I ask a question?" "Of course. My instructors speak often of what happened 6 months ago. The demonstration, the treaty, everything that changed. But I am curious about something specific. What do you think humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy has been? Was it the technology? The military strength? The diplomatic skill?" President Choi smiled. It was a perceptive question from a thoughtful student. "Those things matter, but they are not our greatest contribution. Would you like to know what I think it is?" Kelthar nodded eagerly. "We reminded everyone that strength without wisdom leads to tyranny, but wisdom without strength leads to extinction. The galaxy does not need warriors or pacifists. It needs guardians. And guardians understand that the best victory is the one where nobody has to fight." She gestured to the assembled graduates, still standing in formation. "Look at your classmates. 6 months ago, some of their governments voted to disarm humanity by force. Now you stand together as protectors of the same ideals. That transformation, that choice to build rather than destroy, that is humanity's real contribution. We showed that another path was possible." Kelthar considered this carefully. "And if the coalition had not backed down? If they had chosen war instead? Then we would have fought and won, but the galaxy would have been worse for it. Victory through force creates resentment. Victory through demonstration and choice creates partnership. We were prepared for both outcomes, but we are grateful the galaxy chose the better path. The graduation celebration continued into the evening. Students from different species shared food from their homeworlds, told stories from their cultures, and made plans for their first assignments together. Tomorrow, they would deploy to various locations across the galaxy, working in integrated teams to protect trade routes, respond to emergencies, and maintain peace, high above Earth. The defensive satellite network that had been revealed during the demonstration now served a new purpose. The stations that could have become weapons platforms instead became waypoints for ships from across the galaxy. Thousands of vessels passed through human space each day, trading goods, sharing knowledge, and building relationships. On the bridge of a human cruiser patrolling the outer rim, an officer noticed something on sensors. Unknown ships were approaching from beyond explored space. Not hostile, the energy signatures suggested, but definitely unfamiliar. A new species, perhaps, making first contact with the galactic community. The officer immediately activated the Joint Response Protocol. Within minutes, ships from 6 different species were coordinating their approach, not to threaten the newcomers, but to greet them properly and help them navigate first contact safely. The same species that had nearly gone to war with each other now worked seamlessly together. Ambassador G1 received the report and smiled. This was exactly what the treaty was designed to handle. The galaxy had learned to work together, and now they could extend that cooperation to species they had not even met yet. She recorded a message to send to the approaching ships. Using the translation protocols that had been refined through months of cross-species cooperation. Unknown vessels, this is Ambassador G1 Lee of Earth, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Senate. We welcome you to explored space. We offer friendship, knowledge, and assistance. You are entering a community of species committed to mutual respect and cooperation. We hope you will join us. The message transmitted across the void, carrying with it the promise of a better galaxy. A galaxy where strength served wisdom, where diversity created resilience, and where cooperation overcame fear. The Galactic Senate had tried to disarm humanity. Earth's response had not just left them speechless. It had transformed them into something they had not been before. True partners in building a future worth protecting. And humanity. The species that had climbed from caves to stars in mere thousands of years. The species that had survived ice and fire and its own worst tendencies, now stood as guardians not just of Earth, but of the ideals that made civilization possible. The Academy lights shone bright in the valley, a beacon visible from orbit. Ships from across the galaxy saw those lights and knew what they represented: hope, cooperation, and the promise that tomorrow could be better than today. President Taeyang Choi stood at her window one last time, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled alongside alien allies. Somewhere out there, scientists from a dozen species worked together to solve problems. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that humanity's greatest weapon was not any technology or tactic. It was the stubborn, unreasonable, persistent belief that things could be better, and the willingness to make them so.